series?
I'm not feeling this. It will be fine. Can we just not do math till like January?
I don't know what that. Or like next week.
Oh, it's real dark.
Oh yeah, here's the paper. Oh.
Last year, what happened was we finished like almost all the material for 6, but we couldn't get the test in on the semester. So semester 2 started out with chapter 6 test, which like quarter 2 started out with chapter 3 test. It's not always the best way to start a grading period. But the plan right now is to completely finish chapter 6 before you take your final, so that will be good. Now, sequence and series. What do you guys know about sequence and series already? Numbers. Lots of numbers, for sure. Lots and lots of numbers.
Can't go on forever.
Some of them go on forever. Absolutely true. Anything else? We're going to go through all these bubbles, so if you're scribbling them down now, we're going to go through them. So, anything else you guys know about sequences and series? It's a lot of patterns. You have looked at patterns before, for sure, in like CP geometry. I know when you start proofs, that proofing section, you kind of think logically about patterns. So today is like the extreme basics. The notes are very sparse. I don't think I even have any examples because you do have experience with this stuff. It's mainly vocab today. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the general number. So tomorrow we will just talk a little bit about vocab again and kind of some terminology. Then we're going to get into arithmetic sequences and geometric sequences. Does anyone know the difference between arithmetic and geometric so far? And it's totally fine if you don't, because I'm about to teach you this week. Okay, so we're going to spend 2 days on arithmetic and I think 2 days on geometric sequences. Then we're going to talk about series. Does anyone know the difference between sequence and series? Good, so I'm going to teach you that too. I got lots to teach. And then we'll talk about arithmetic series and geometric series. So it sounds like you guys have a lot to learn, right? Today, like I said, is going to be mostly basics. We'll start getting into the more complex stuff a little bit later this week. We're not going to get to this stuff today, but in your packet, under topic 1 algebra, where it says 1.1, all of these formulas we will be using. Not today, but just like, this is another, like, you need your packet chapter. So if you haven't used it in a while, make sure you locate it. It's going to be one of your best friends for this section here. So today is just about number sequences. So if you guys didn't already put your stat box down, you can do that. This was like the first chapter we started stat boxes in last year. What? Isn't that sweet? I looked at the notes and I explained it. I figured out. Where would I do that? Alright, so here are some things that you must be able to do for this section and this chapter. So recognize a pattern. So looking at a group of numbers and recognizing a pattern, whether you are adding something to each number to get the next number, or subtracting, or multiplying, or dividing. Maybe it's not even any of those. Maybe it's a different type of pattern, like square numbers, or cubic numbers, or prime numbers. Like there are different kinds of patterns also that are not just like adding and subtracting. Maybe it's a combination too. Maybe you're adding something and multiplying or something like that. So being able to recognize that pattern. The second thing you have to do, which I feel like I notice most people struggling with, is describing that pattern in words. So it's a really good practice for those of you that help explain your thinking when we're doing a daily challenge and stuff like that, because you need to describe what's happening in words. If you are having trouble, make sure you ask me about that, and also realize that there's more than one way to describe something. So your description might be good, but it might not match the back exactly. So as you check your answers, if you're not sure if what your description was is the same or means the same as what's in the back of the book, make sure you ask me that too. And after you've done those things, recognize what's happened, described it in words, then you can continue that pattern. So if it is adding 3, you can keep adding 3 and continue that pattern. All of these things I know you also did in geometry way back when. Any questions on those? So just some words to know. In this chapter, you're often going to see number sequences. So a number sequence is a list of ordered numbers defined by a rule. So it's a list of ordered numbers defined by a rule. So that's kind of what we were talking about with recognizing that pattern and describing it. That's the rule. If you can figure out what's happening, that's the rule. And it is in order, so it's very specific for this is what happens first, second, third, fourth in that list. The order is important. And this kind of got brought up at the very beginning. The infinite sequence goes on forever. So with that example of like adding 3, we could keep adding 3 indefinitely. So you might have some sequences that go on forever, where you can keep adding or subtracting or multiplying or whatever it is. There also exists some finite sequences, so a sequence that sort of ends. So you can have a finite sequence by just those numbers sort of ending, there's nowhere else to go, or if we decide we're only going to look at like the first 20 terms of a sequence or something like that, we can end that sequence. And then I know I've been using these words already, but the words like terms or members are the numbers in a sequence. So when you have your list of numbers, we either call those numbers terms, you already heard me use the word term, or we call those members, like the numbers that are in the list are members of that sequence. Are those words familiar to you, like terms and numbers? We doing okay with those? So, for example, the 6th term is the 6th number in the sequence. So if you have a list of numbers, the 6th one in that list is called the 6th term. And that word term, we're going to use a lot, especially when we get to the formulas. We're going to talk about first term, last term, the nth term, which is what tomorrow is really about, is figuring out that. That word term is going to be really important. So, what is one thing you need to know about sequence and series that we talked about today? I know if they're super short, but what's one thing that you need to know? 6 terms. Yeah, so what term means? Definitely, that's very important to know what term means. Anything else? Like I said, we're kind of starting off pretty basic today, and tomorrow when we talk about the general term, will be pretty basic as well. And then we'll get into the more complex stuff after that. All right, so here is your assignment. I highly suggest you guys just power through this so that you don't have any homework. And then, tomorrow is going to build off of today's stuff. So again, that's another good reason to make sure that you complete today's work. Tomorrow's work will just build off of it.